Why does everything in your life feel urgent, with nothing truly getting better? Why do you wake up each morning already behind, already pressured, already reactive? This is not because your life is uniquely chaotic. It is because the modern world has trained you to live like an emotional firefighter, always running, always responding, always extinguishing flames that never seem to cease. Think about the way most people begin their day. The alarm rings, they hit snooze, they wake up late, already rushed. Before their feet even touch the floor, they reach for their phone. Messages, notifications, demands, problems, all demanding immediate attention. Their body hasn't awakened, but their stress has. They rush to the shower, rush out the door, rush into conversations, rush into decisions. They're not leading their life, they're chasing it. They enter the day in survival mode and then wonder why the entire day feels like a storm they can't outrun. You may recognize this pattern, and if you do, it's not because you're broken or weak. It's because urgency has become the default environment of our culture. We live in a world where everything appears to be an emergency, where everything demands immediate reaction, where everything tries to claim your attention before you've even had a chance to choose it. And if you're not careful, you become a prisoner to that urgency, measured not by what you build, but by what you respond to. Let me share a truth that might feel uncomfortable at first. Urgency is not a schedule problem. It is a clarity problem. When you don't know what is most important, everything looks urgent. When you don't have a direction, every distraction feels like a necessity. And when you have not taken the time to choose your priorities, the world will choose them for you. This is what I call the chronic urgency trap. It's a mental and emotional loop that convinces you that busyness is progress, that speed is effectiveness, and that reacting is the same as living. But chronic urgency does something far more damaging than fill your calendar. It empties your purpose. It fragments your mind. It blurs your values. It convinces you that you're accomplishing something meaningful when, in reality, you're merely surviving the noise. Urgency robs you of reflection. It robs you of intention. It robs you of the ability to step back and ask, is this truly important? Is this aligned with who I want to become? And without those questions, you drift day after day into a life that feels full but is actually hollow. But it does not have to stay this way. Because urgency is not a condition, it is a habit. And habits can be transformed. You can learn to slow the noise. You can learn to reclaim the space between stimulus and response. You can learn to make decisions rooted in purpose instead of pressure. In this video, I will help you break that cycle. I will show you how to stop living in urgency and begin living from clarity, how to replace reactivity with purpose, exhaustion with direction, and constant firefighting with meaningful progress. By the end, you'll understand how to step out of survival mode and into leadership of your own life. When you live in a state of constant urgency, there is a price you pay, one far greater than you often recognize. Urgency may feel productive. It may feel necessary. It may even feel like the only way to survive. But beneath that surface lies a slow erosion of your emotional strength, your relationships, and your long-term progress. And unless you stop to examine the cost, you will continue paying it without ever realizing what you've lost. Emotionally, urgency exhausts you. It drains your energy before the day has even begun. When everything feels like a crisis, your nervous system never has the chance to reset. You live in a state of anticipatory anxiety, waiting for the next problem, the next notification, the next demand. You may sit in a quiet room, but your mind is racing. You may be surrounded by people, but you are not present. You carry a tension that never leaves your shoulders. This emotional weight becomes so familiar that you start to mistake it for normal life. In relationships, urgency creates impatience. When you are rushed internally, you rush others. You interrupt more, listen less, and lose the ability to be fully there with the people you care about. Stress makes small inconveniences feel like personal attacks. You snap more easily. Conversations become transactional. Moments of connection are replaced by hurried exchanges. And very often, conflicts arise not because the relationship is broken, but because urgency is dictating your tone, your reactions, and your capacity to understand. Urgency also creates disconnection. You may sit with your spouse, partner, or child and feel only the pressure of unfinished tasks. You may speak to a colleague and hear nothing because your mind is somewhere else. And over time, this repeated absence sends a message louder than any words. I don't have time for you. Relationships cannot thrive under the weight of constant hurry. And when it comes to results, urgency can be even more deceptive. It gives you the illusion of progress while stealing the possibility of real progress. You work hard, often harder than ever, but you advance very little. You stay busy, but not effective. You respond to dozens of messages, handle multiple crises, complete endless tasks, but at the end of the day you feel strangely empty, as if nothing meaningful actually moved forward. I once worked with an executive who perfectly embodied this problem. Every day, he would tell me how much he got done. 50 emails answered, emergency meetings, rapid decisions, non-stop action. He felt accomplished, even heroic. But when I asked him what strategic progress he had made that week, what important goals had moved forward, there was always silence. He lived in urgency so constantly that he never created the space for what truly mattered. He was busy every day and nowhere closer to his vision. This is the deception of urgency. It consumes you. It devours your attention, your peace, your relationships, and your long-term success. And that is why I want you to hold on to this principle. Urgency consumes you. Importance builds you. Urgency burns your energy. Importance invests it. Urgency pulls you in every direction. Importance aligns you. Urgency produces stress. Importance produces growth. One drains, the other strengthens. If you do not interrupt the cycle, you will live in what I call a state of constant noise, always busy, rarely fulfilled. You will feel as though your life is moving fast, yet going nowhere. You will mistake motion for progress and exhaustion for achievement. And the saddest part is this: you may reach the end of many years and realize that you lived in response to everything except your own purpose. This is not a harsh warning, it is a caring one. Because if you continue living in urgency, you will never experience the steady, focused progress that comes from living by importance. You will never feel the deep peace of moving intentionally, and you will never know the strength that comes from deciding your own rhythm instead of being pushed by the world's demands. But once you break the urgency cycle, everything changes. And that journey begins in the next part. There is a principle at the heart of effective living, one that is simple to say but profoundly difficult to embody. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Most people agree with this idea. Few actually live it. Not because they lack discipline, but because urgency pulls them away from what matters long before they have the chance to choose it. Urgency shouts, importance whispers, and unless you train yourself to listen to the whisper, the noise will own your life. To move from urgency to importance, you must understand the fundamental difference between the two. Urgency is whatever demands your attention right now calls. Emails, notifications, interruptions, deadlines, crises. Urgency lives in your phone, your inbox, and the expectations of others. It feels immediate, loud, unavoidable. And because it feels urgent, you respond. But importance is different. Importance is quiet. It lives in your values, your health, your relationships, your long-term goals, your mission, your vision. Importance rarely demands, it invites. It requires reflection rather than reaction. Let me illustrate this contrast with a simple scene. Imagine two people waking up on the same morning. The first person opens their eyes and immediately grabs their phone. Messages, alerts, requests, they react to each one. They rush into their day, moving quickly, dealing with everything that appears. By noon, they've handled dozens of tasks, but their energy is drained and their clarity is gone. Now imagine the second person. They take 10 quiet minutes before entering the world. They breathe. They choose 3 important tasks that reflect their values. They anticipate the day's challenges. They decide who they want to be. This person may not move as quickly, but they move with purpose. And at the end of the day, they have made meaningful progress, while the first person has merely survived the noise. The difference between these two people is not intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It is orientation. One is oriented toward urgency, the other toward importance. One is led by external demands, the other by internal values. And this difference creates two entirely different lives. To make this shift, you must use the four unique human faculties that give you the power to rise above urgency. First, self-awareness. You must recognize the pattern of urgency within yourself. Notice when you rush without thinking, when you react without choosing, when you feel pulled instead of grounded. Without awareness, you will repeat the same patterns every morning. With awareness, you can interrupt them. Second, conscience. This is your internal guidance system. It helps you choose values over pressure, principle over impulse, importance over urgency. Conscience reminds you of what matters most: your character, your relationships, your mission. When you listen to it, your decisions become anchored rather than scattered. Third, imagination. This is your ability to visualize a life not dominated by urgency, a life where you choose your pace, your direction, your priorities. Imagination helps you see the future you want to build. It allows you to mentally create the day before you physically live it, and that vision becomes your shield against distraction. Fourth, independent will. This is the strength to choose importance even when urgency is louder. It is the courage to say, "Not now," to interruptions, to silence the notification, to pause before reacting, to take the harder but wiser path. Independent will is what turns intention into behavior. When these four faculties work together, urgency loses its control. You stop letting the world push you, and you begin leading yourself. You stop chasing what is loud, and you start choosing what is meaningful. You stop being driven by pressure, and you start being guided by purpose. And I want you to remember this: you cannot live a meaningful life if you are owned by the urgent. Meaning requires intention, growth requires space, leadership requires clarity. And none of these can survive in a life where urgency dictates every moment. The shift from urgency to importance is not just a strategy, it is a transformation of identity. And that transformation begins with the choices you make next. There is a truth most people never recognize, and it keeps them trapped in the urgency loop for decades. Urgency feels productive. That's why it controls you. When you rush, when you react, when you sprint through tasks, you feel busy, active, involved. You feel as though you're accomplishing something meaningful. But productivity without direction is merely movement, and urgency thrives on movement without meaning. To escape the urgency loop, you must begin with a new internal shift, a transformation in the way you interpret and respond to the demands of your life. The first shift is from reacting to preparing. Most people live as if life is happening to them rather than something they can prepare for. They respond to every message, every request, every interruption the moment it arrives. But preparation is the antidote. Preparation gives you the space to anticipate challenges instead of being ambushed by them. Preparation lets you enter the day with calm instead of chaos. Even 2 minutes of preparation in the morning can neutralize hours of reactive stress. When you prepare, you lead. When you react, you chase. The second shift is from speed to clarity. Speed is seductive because it gives you a quick hit of progress. But speed without clarity leads to confusion, mistakes, and emotional exhaustion. Slow down enough to think. Slow down enough to see. Clarity does not come from rushing. It comes from pausing long enough to ask the right questions. What truly matters right now? What is the principle that should guide me? What outcome am I actually trying to create? When you choose clarity over speed, you begin to reclaim your mind from the noise of urgency. The third shift is from responding to everything to choosing your few. Not every task deserves your attention. Not every request deserves your energy. Not every urgency deserves your involvement. When you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing meaningful. But when you choose your few, the essential actions that align with your values and long-term goals, you begin to build a life that reflects intention rather than pressure. Choosing your few is not irresponsible. It is responsible leadership of your time, your energy, and your purpose. Let me give you some practical examples of how these shifts look in everyday life. Imagine you face a conflict at home, a disagreement with your partner, or frustration from your children. Urgency pushes you to react immediately, defensively, emotionally. But preparation and clarity invite you to pause, breathe, and approach the moment from principle instead of impulse. You say, "Let me understand before I respond." Suddenly, tension softens. Communication improves. Connection strengthens. The problem was not the conflict, it was the urgency. Or consider a work situation where a colleague sends you an urgent message. The instinct is to drop everything and respond instantly. But leadership means discerning whether the urgency is real or simply loud. You can respond quickly without allowing the urgency to steal your focus. You might say, "I'll look into this shortly." This is not avoidance. It is responsible pacing. It is refusing to let someone else's urgency dictate your life. And then there is the art of saying no without guilt. Many urgencies arrive disguised as obligations, requests from others that feel impossible to decline. But importance requires boundaries. You can say, "I'm not able to commit to that right now," with calm sincerity. Saying no is not a rejection of people, it is a protection of purpose. Every yes must serve your mission, not sabotage it. The phrase I want you to carry with you, the one that can transform your relationship with urgency, is simple. Let me pause and choose my response. This single sentence interrupts the automatic cycle. It gives you back the space between the stimulus and the response. It repositions you from victim to leader, from reactor to creator. When you say it, you reclaim the freedom to choose wisely. And understand this, deliberate calm is not passivity, it is leadership. It is the strength to remain centered when the world is spinning. It is the wisdom to choose what matters rather than what shouts the loudest. It is the courage to act from principle instead of panic. Urgency wants you to be frantic. Leadership invites you to be intentional. Escaping the urgency loop is not about slowing down, it is about rising above. It is about choosing clarity, preparation, and purposeful action. And with this shift, your entire life begins to transform. Escaping the urgency trap is not accomplished by inspiration alone. It requires a daily system, a practical, repeatable rhythm that guides your mind away from pressure and toward clarity. Urgency thrives on chaos. Importance thrives on structure. And the system I want to share with you today is simple enough to apply immediately, yet powerful enough to transform the course of your days. I call it the Importance First Daily Method, a 5-step process that brings intention into your mornings and alignment into your decisions. The first step is quiet prioritization. Spend the first 2 minutes of your workday or your morning sitting in silence. No emails, no notifications, no conversations. In those 2 minutes, simply breathe and regain your internal center. This moment of quiet is how you reclaim control of your mind. You separate yourself from the noise and return to the inner clarity that urgency tries to steal. When you begin with silence, you begin from strength. The second step is define your big 3. Urgency will always present you with dozens of tasks, but importance asks a different question. What are the 3 meaningful things that must advance today? Not 10, not 7, 3. These big 3 should be aligned with your long-term goals, your relationships, your mission, your health, your key projects. When you define them clearly, you give your mind direction. You tell your day what matters instead of letting your day tell you. And when you finish those 3 important actions, the day already becomes a success. The third step is the urgency audit, a simple but transformative 30-second practice. Look at everything that seems to demand your attention and ask, is this truly urgent or is it just loud? You will be surprised how often loud things masquerade as urgent. A notification is loud. A request can be loud. Someone else's anxiety can be loud. But loud does not mean important. This question gives you the power to sift through the noise and respond only to what genuinely requires your attention. The fourth step is the importance anchor ritual. Before you begin working, read one value principle, or purpose statement that will guide your choices today. It might be patience, service, integrity, focus, or courage. When you anchor yourself to a value, you create a filter for your behavior. You shift from reacting emotionally to responding intentionally. This ritual takes less than a minute, but it changes the quality of your decisions throughout the day. It reminds you of who you want to be, not just what you need to do. The fifth step is protect one important block. Choose a 15-25-minute period at the beginning of your day to work exclusively on something important, one of your big three. Protect it fiercely. No multitasking, no interruptions, no checking messages, just for a moment. This block becomes your sanctuary of importance. The simple act of moving one meaningful task forward early in the day builds momentum, confidence, and clarity. It tells your mind, importance comes first. And with consistent practice, this block becomes the anchor of your productivity and peace. Alongside these 5 steps, there are complementary routines that reinforce the shift away from urgency. A weekly urgency reduction review helps you examine how many unnecessary emergencies you allowed into your life and how you handle them. This reflection strengthens your ability to recognize urgency patterns before they control you. Then there are what I call micro habits of anti-urgency. These are tiny practices that disrupt the reactive loop. Put your phone away for the first 20 minutes of your day. Take a slow 3-minute walk before responding to stressful emails. Use a 10-second breathing reset before important calls. Each of these habits gives you back a moment of clarity, tiny but powerful breaks in the urgency cycle. You can also try something more playful, the 60-second calm challenge. Before making a difficult decision, force yourself to pause for 60 seconds. Breathe, reflect, reset. This small challenge interrupts impulsive responses and allows your conscience and clarity to step forward. Over time, it teaches your mind that calm is not a luxury, it is a leadership skill. The outcome of the importance first method is profound. Your days become quieter, even when your responsibilities remain the same. Your decisions become wiser because they are guided by intention rather than pressure. You begin to feel a sense of inner leadership, a calm strength that cannot be taken away by someone else's urgency. And most importantly, you stop living in reaction and start living in alignment with what actually matters. This is how you reclaim your days. This is how you step out of the urgency trap. And this is how you begin building a life rooted in purpose rather than pressure. Urgency promises momentum, but what it truly steals is clarity. It takes your attention before you've had the chance to choose it. It takes your energy before you've aligned it with purpose. And over time, it takes something far more precious, your sense of meaning. That is the real danger of living in constant urgency. It convinces you that motion is progress, when in reality, it keeps you too busy to see the direction your life is taking. As you let urgency drive your days, you slowly lose touch with your values, your relationships, your vision, and the quiet voice inside you that knows what truly matters. But imagine, for a moment, a different kind of life. A life where you set the pace instead of being pushed by it. A life where your mornings are steady, your decisions intentional, and your actions aligned with purpose. A life where you create space to think, to choose, to listen, where you no longer feel pulled in 1,000 directions, but guided by a few important priorities that give structure to your day. Imagine living with a calm confidence that does not disappear when challenges arise, because your clarity is stronger than your circumstances. This transformation is not distant. It begins with a single decision, one made not out of pressure, but out of commitment. Today, you stop living in urgency. Today, you choose importance. This choice is not dramatic. It does not require radical change. It simply requires awareness and intention. When you choose importance first, when you reclaim your mornings, when you pause before responding, when you anchor your day in values, you begin to rewrite the rhythm of your life. You shift from being carried by the current to steering your own course. I want you to speak this affirmation slowly, with sincerity, and let it settle into your identity. I will not be driven by urgency. I will be guided by importance. Say it again if you need to. Let it become a declaration not just for today, but for the days ahead. Every time you repeat it, you strengthen the mindset that allows you to lead your life from the inside out. You build integrity with yourself. You reinforce the habits that protect you from noise and nourish the clarity that allows you to live effectively. As you begin to implement these principles, you will notice a subtle but powerful shift. You will feel more grounded. You will think more clearly. Your relationships will deepen. Your work will become more meaningful. And you will discover that progress, real progress, is not made by reacting faster, but by choosing better. Importance gives you the freedom urgency never will. This journey doesn't end here. Moving from urgency to importance is one of the foundational shifts of a principle-centered life. In the next video, we will explore how to build habits and systems that protect your values, strengthen your character, and help you live with purpose rather than pressure. Continue with me, and let's build a life where your choices, not your urgencies, shape your future.